the most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome back to the tracks once again, race fans here on Turn 3 Racing Network. Tonight, great racing action for you once again. The RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company Arca Menards K&N Series hits the great historic. It's a beautiful place. I love it. You love it. The fans love it. I mean, I don't, unless you wreck, you probably don't love it. But enough of that. And welcome. Yeah, as I said, each and every one of you out there joining us on the YouTube side of things each and every week you do. Glad you could join myself, Darkside Dave, in the cave here in the Turn 3 Racing Network booth. Got my good buddy Cody once again beside me. And Cody, how you feeling? How you doing out here tonight?
Man, I'm excited to be at this place. I think we've been talking since the very first race of the year how excited I was to see these drivers and these cars here. The drivers might not think the same I do, but I'm telling you what, this is going to be one of my favorite places on the schedule for a reason. It's a track that opened back in 1965. Dave, believe it or not, it started out as a flat track. They eventually changed it up, put some bankings to it. It's a 1-mile racetrack, but Dave, 5 sets of tires for these guys today, and they are going to be begging for every single set they can get.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the drivers down on pit road, I don't want to necessarily say complaining about the tire wear, but noting the tire wear is pretty significant here. The tire fall off is pretty significant for a large amount of the drivers on pit road. So, yeah, those 5 sets, it might sound like a lot for 150 laps, but I promise you these drivers are going to use probably all 5, and if they could put on a U set, they'd probably beg to do so. Track temperature not too gosh awful here tonight, 101 degrees. Gonna be a little slick out there for some of the drivers. Cody, you had a chance to get into the Turn 3 cutaway car and turn a few laps out there. How'd the car feel for you?
Well, Dave, this place, of course, it's one of the older tracks on the circuit. It is, it's somewhat of a short track. I know it's a mile in length, pretty much, close to a mile. As far as wear and tear on your race car, this place will eat the tires. Dave, you'll see a lot of drivers wanting the bottom line. That's where they want to be around these turns. That's the hot ticket, so to speak. And the further you get down on the bottom and that yellow line, the harder you work those right side tires. And Dave, if you're not careful, you could pretty much wear these tires out in about 15, 20 laps, and then you're pretty much skating on ice. So these drivers are going to have to manage the tires that they've got. Yes, they've got 5 sets, and we're only racing 150 laps, but they are going to have to pretty much manage what they got, because if we get into a long green flag run here, the pit strategy could play an effect. And Dave, that's another different monster. This racetrack has a very unique pit road.
Yes, it does. Very I don't want to say awkward to get onto, but it can come out and bite you if you're not careful, you're not paying attention, you're not eyeballing that entry. I would say at least 2 to 3 laps before you're going to hit pit road. You need to start eyeballing that entry to pit road, because I can imagine we're going to see a few drivers get caught out by that, awkward entry into pit road. Actually, kind of late off of 4 there. Yeah, so if we get to the green flag pit stops, Cody, I think that's going to be something we're going to have to keep our eye on. And keeping our eye on something, let's go into some official business real quick, as we've got about 2 minutes remaining here in Happy Hour. There are your point standings, your championship. Pretty close, pretty tight right now at the top. Katie Osmond leads with 263 points. Chris Medford right there behind him, 255. Chris Berg making his way back up through the field his 67 machine, third in the point standings now. Steve Baker right there in fourth. Roy Hyde, 00, right there, rounding out your top 5. Brian Maskell Jr., last week's race winner, right there sitting in 7th. Troy Radford, notable driver, competed for the championship last year, Cody. He's sitting in 13th. Jimmy Hetrick, a little bit newer to the series. He's rounding out the top 15, so a lot of drivers in some very good positions, and they might be able to make up a little bit of points here tonight, because this could throw a few of these drivers for a setback if they're not careful.
Yeah, it's very true, Dave. And you got a lot of drivers that are going to be on this racetrack, some of them for the very first time, which that's going to make it interesting as well. But you look at the top 15 in points, yeah, the margin of error, so to speak, in the top 5 is pretty slim. But, man, it is everybody within the top 20 or within 20 or within 100 points of the top spot. So we've still got a long way to go as far as this points championship goes. And, Dave, this place here, you'll either leave here very happy or you very well could leave here very, very ill. And I want to point out something else, too, the layout of this racetrack. Something is very similar to Talladega. And you may think, what? This track compared to Talladega? The start-finish line is closer to turn 1 than it actually is to coming out of turn 4. So instead of in the middle of that front stretch, there's a little bit of a dog leg there, Dave, and there's a lot of room for some action coming off forward of that start-finish line.
Yeah, very, very unique to this track to be, I don't want to say modeled after Talladega, but I'm pretty sure some of that thought process was brought into it. You know, extending that run to the finish line, driver's going to be a lot closer, push a lot harder, and then have to drag race down the front stretch to get to the start-finish line. That's just a couple hundred feet before you actually enter turn number 1. So these drivers, yeah, I mean, they're going to have to push it to the limits the entire way around. And, I mean, as you said already, the bottom line is all these drivers going to be fighting for the bottom. Who's going to use the chrome horn? Who's going to move people out of the way? We'll just have to wait and see as qualifying has begun. We have multiple drivers out there on track right now. Looks like the 49, Troy Radford, out there for some time lapse. Actually, just kind of hanging out, maybe warming up, and goes back, resets. So we'll jump on board with last week's race winner, the 33 of Brian Maskell Jr., as he makes his way through 3 and 4.
Yeah, Dave, and I had a chance to talk with Brian Maskell Jr. after last week's win. Just the confidence in his voice sounded so much better coming out of that win last week. He comes into this race. Of course, another driver to keep your eye on here tonight could very well be Roy Hyde. Roy Hyde's had a lot of track time here so far this week, a lot of extra practice sessions. He's got a car that could make a run for it, and you can't count out the guy that just went to the top of the speed charts, K.D. Osmond.
Yeah, Osmond, he's you can't count him out no matter where we go. There you see Brian Maskell Jr., second on the speed charts, still about a 10th off of Osmond's time, but I mean, Osmond, he's known for sitting that thing right up there, either on the pole or inside the front row. Haven't seen him really outside of that front row all year in qualifying.
No, we have not. And I'll tell you another driver that we haven't seen out of that front area either, and that is our current points leader. I was going to say Chris Mefford there in 3rd, but he's dropped back to 6th. Eric Blunt, he's up to 5th. So we're seeing a lot of drivers hit the racetrack. It looks like right now 12 drivers have hit the racetrack so far, and if you look at the number of cars in the garage, Dave, that's close to about halfway. That's usually what we see. I was anxious to see if we get any more cars this week to try and avoid, say, for instance, those turn 1 woes that we've had the last few weeks. But right now, only 12 drivers have turned quick times, and now 13 have hit the track.
Yeah, and there's a few more drivers out there yet to turn in their time lap. Brian Kaufman, Travis Pryor, Thomas Light, Dustin Ping, Steve Baker, all out there on track, as Brian Littleton, the man we're watching on screen, back in his familiar paint scheme, that Michelob Ultra chromed out blue and red 80 machine, looking fine out there on the track. Sitting 13th on the speed charts right now. Let's see what he can do on this second time lap. Gonna cross the line right there. Ooh, only jumps to 11th. So nobody able to dethrone K.D. Osmond off of the top of the speed charts just yet, as we'll watch that 98 of Thomas Light hug the bottom here and try to kick Osmond to the curb.
Yeah, Thomas Light, of course, Light Electric Company. We want to thank them for being on board of this year. The primary sponsor for this year's RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company Arca Menards K&N Series. 946 Designs, Jekyll Controls, all the great folks. The RFC NEXTGEN, we thank you. And of course, the Turn 3 Racing Network thanks you for watching the broadcast tonight as we get ready for, this is kind of the old school short track racing, Dave, at The Rock.
Yeah, old school for sure. And got to give a big shout out to the man himself, Dale Earnhardt Jr., for, I don't want to necessarily say pressuring, but lobbying, if you will, to get this track cleaned up and scanned and put onto iRacing. And this is why iRacing is the world's #1 racing simulator. So got to give a big shout out, give credit where it's due. And I'm not sure without that push, Cody, if we would have seen this track when we did.
No, you're exactly right, Dave. And if everything goes well a little bit later on this year, we're going to see a track come to life that I'm stoked about. Being, of course, from the state of Tennessee, the old fairgrounds is the next real true short track that's going to be coming to iRacing. And I'm telling you what, race cars at the fairgrounds, that's going to be something cool to see.
Yeah, and it looks like we've seen all we're gonna see out there on the track. Looks like pretty much all the drivers, at least from my vantage point, Cody, pretty much all of the drivers out there have put in their timed laps. We've got about 4, maybe 5 drivers that haven't turned in a time lap, but nobody actually out there on track. And we're a little bit, I don't want to say ahead of schedule, but we're a little bit ahead of schedule here. We're before the halfway point. These guys are on a ball tonight.
Yeah, and Dave, I want you to look. 20 drivers have took quick time, and I want to say there's 25 or 24 drivers in the garage. So this is more than average. We've seen way more than halfway, over 3/4 of the field. Melvin Young, Brandon Mefford, Damon Cox, and Ray Radford, the only drivers that have not took the racetrack. And I want to point out something to shine a little bit of a spotlight on somebody. Last week, he did the same thing and had just a terrible result. But Brian Snare right now has that 45 Victory Junction machine on the outside of the front row. That is another solid qualifying effort from that number 45 machine.
Yeah, he's been looking pretty good over the past few races. I know it's still kind of early, only 8 races into the season, and right around the 20 races total in the season, if you want to count the championship race and everything like that. But so it's still very early, and to start building that momentum right here close to the halfway point, it could go a long way, and you could carry it potentially all the way to the end because, I mean, these drivers, there is no chase here in the RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company Arca Menards K&N Series. It's old school style. It's old school Arca racing. You run what you brung. If you wreck, well, you hope you can fix it. If not, you go to the house, you put it on the hauler, and say bye to all your best friends and watch them go around the track. And I mean, it's a great thing. So to build that momentum early, halfway in the season, could vote well for that 45 later on.
Yeah, and that's something unique too. You know, drivers right now pressure each week to stay, within distance. Just because you go out there and you win a race doesn't guarantee you're going to be racing for a championship, say, for instance, in a playoff. You got to go out there and be consistent. Top 5s, top 10s. Drivers right now, that's what I said, the top 20 are within 100 points. That's roughly, Dave, that's a couple of races worth of hard work.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put in the work. I mean, obviously, they're not just going to fall in your lap, but I don't know, just having those solid qualifying runs and loading from the truck, it just gives you that good feeling to have a good race car under you. As soon as you unload, you don't have to stress about anything. Then you can go out, put in a good qualifying lap, get a good starting spot, and usually that can see itself or make its way into a very good race finish, and then that momentum just kind of keeps carrying over. So I don't know. I mean, it might be 150 points, but you chip away at it each week, 20 points here or there, you might find yourself sitting pretty.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm telling you what, with Dover and Dega waiting on the next couple of weeks for these guys, I would say they want to get as many points as they can here this weekend at Rockingham.
I tell you what, Cody, as we've got some time on our hands, about 2 minutes, well, I'm not sure we're going to have all the time on our hands that I thought we had. So we'll nip that in the bud. I'll shut up, and we'll get on with things as scheduled here on the Turn 3 Racing Network. Going to step away from the track for just a brief commercial break. Head on down trackside for your national anthem. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back with all your green flag action here from Rockingham.
So proudly wailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Back trackside, cars start at field, already rolling. We're going to get to your starting lineup here tonight at Rockingham, starting inside row number 1 on the pole. The 88 of K.D. Osmond, Brian Snares of his outside row number 2. The 77 in the 55, Derek Robinson going to come in the 5th spot. Troy Radford going to line up in 6th. 7th will be Brian Muskill Jr. 8th will be the 84 of Chris Mefford. Row number 5, the 7 of Brian Kaufman, and the 1 of Dustin Ping.
Travis Pryor, also Eric Blunt rolling off in the 11th and 12th spot. Lance Yancey and Steve Baker following them down, it'll be Thomas Light, Brian Littleton as the pace truck gets ready to roll off of turn 4. Dave, we're going to give it back to you.
There you have the rest of your starting lineup scrolling through on the screen, and it looks like pace truck gonna duck off this time by. We'll get set to go. Green flag racing here at Rockingham Speedway. The RFC Next Gen Light Electric Company, Arca Menards, K&N Series, and oh, the 45 goes around. I believe that is Brian Snare caught up in a yet another turn 1 incident here for these drivers, and it looks like quite a few involved in this one. Looks like Brian Snare, Eric Blount, Brian Kaufman, Derek Robinson, Chuck Mobley all involved. We'll take another look back here, see what happened. 2 wide contact with the 77 and the 55, and then just pinballing and around. A lot of drivers go. The 6 involved. Looks like the 98 of Thomas Light, Chuck Mobley, also involved as well. We'll take one more look.
Yeah, Dave, I'm looking back at that, and that was kind of a hit and miss. Baker got into the back of the 45. Lance Yancey didn't quite stay on that yellow line and got right into the door panel of Brian Snare, which got him loose going into 1, and after that, it was just a pinball effect. So not really sure where to point the blame. It looked like maybe Lance Yancey entered a little high, but Steve Baker got right into the bumper of Brian Snare, and then around goes Eric Blunt, Thomas Light. Nowhere to go for those drivers, even Derek Robinson.
Yeah, and going into turn 1, it's not really the spot you want to have to check up, especially on cold tires. It's going to be slick. It's going to slide a little bit more, and as we've seen, a few drivers caught up in a very early incident. I don't want to say common, but this year, for some reason, the big struggle has been that lap 1, turn 1.
Yeah, Dave, it has. And I just, when it comes, and you got to know it's coming. We're in race 8. We've raced, this will be the 8th race of the season. We've seen this. The only place we didn't really see it was Laguna Seca. We did see a wreck, but without a full course caution, we didn't really get a caution out of it. But you would think 8 races in, these drivers would kind of take that deep breath and, hey, let's get to the back straightaway. But you watch that replay over and over again as I see damage to the right rear of that 77 Pennzoil machine for Lance Yancey. Not really sure whether they'll have to do any work on that or not. But just, once things happen here, Dave, the way this track is laid out, the way it's shaped, there's walls on the inside and outside, there's just nowhere to go.
Yeah, it's not quite as confined as Bristol, but you kind of feel that way, kind of like a Martinsville, Bristol feel. You can very easily go from the inside to the outside wall and vice versa. You can find yourself sliding off of turn 2, hit the inside wall, and then pinballing all the way back up to the outside wall. So when it happens, it usually happens big, and there's usually nowhere to go, as we've seen multiple drivers after the slight contact there in turn 1 between the 77, the 45, and the 55. They were all involved in that when it all started. The slight little contact and just nowhere to go for those drivers. I mean, just what do you do?
Yeah, and, a lot of people want to go to the apron to try to avoid stuff. Well, the way this place is banked, we told you originally it was a flat track. They banked this place, and it does kind of like the old Dover. If you ever watch an old Dover video, especially in the banks here, everything that's up high feeds to the apron. A lot of these drivers were diving to the apron, and that's where we saw that kind of, I would say, colliding, so to speak, action on the bottom of the racetrack. But, that's what you're going to have when you have these kind of races. This track is rough, Dave. You mentioned I got some time in the cutaway car. On that yellow line is the place to be. But, man, oh, man, it will chatter your teeth every lap.
Yeah, and if you overstep it with that left front, that's all she wrote. You're going, and you're not going to stop it.
Very much so. And it's already, you've seen kind of on that restart, a lot of drivers were trying to get to the bottom. There was a lot of shuffling going on in the back of the field. They were already trying to establish themselves because, the old school Bristol, you mentioned Bristol a few moments ago, right on that bottom, that's where you want to be. If you wasn't on the bottom, then guess what? You were pulling out a parachute and going to the back. And it's just kind of on that replay, it looked like maybe Lance Yancey didn't quite get the bottom. And when he did, it shoved him up into Snare, and then the rest was chaos, so to speak.
Yeah, and for the second week in a row, unfortunately for that 45, we talked about building the momentum. Second week in a row, he started up there in the front and had a turn one incident. Not necessarily of his doing, but both times now, 2 weeks in a row, trouble on a lap one, turn one for that 45 and his crew. So Snare going to have to overcome quite a bit as we see him now. He's off of pit road. He's got it all fixed up, or as much as they could fix it up. Car still looks pretty clean, though. So he should be all right. Got a long night ahead of him, that is for sure, as your leaders double file back behind the pace truck. And look at that. Asking ye shall receive. Chevy Silverado pace truck lights are off. We wanted it. We got it, Cody. Look at that.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. And I was going to see if you were going to recognize that or not. I knew that was coming on Friday night. I heard about that, but we'll see. Lance Yancey, Katie Osmond, Brian Mescal Jr., Steve Baker, they stack them up 2 by 2. We're looking for our first full green flag lap. 6 are in the books, coming to 7 this time. Green flag in the air from Rockingham.
Katie Osmond on the bottom with a great restart. He leaves the whole field behind, wondering where the heck their first or second gear was, because it was not underneath them. Osmond off to about a 7/10 of a second lead already as he works his way off of turn number 4. Lance Yancey, Brian Mescal Jr., Steve Baker, and Troy Radford round out your top 5. And Lance Yancey cutting the grass, getting paid for some landscaping here on lap number 8. Can he get it woed up, rejoin the track? Looks like that's going to work out for all the drivers except for that 77 after cutting the grass here at Rockingham.
Wow, Dave, you want to talk about what could possibly have been a disaster. Him sliding towards turn 1 in the grass. Didn't think he was going to get it woed up. That could have been big. He would have hit that outside wall with half the field behind him, but he brings it back down and hangs on to it and saves what could have been a disaster. But, man, we got racing going on all over the racetrack. They are nose to tail. I'm watching right now Chris Medford and Dustin Ping. Also, Troy Radford going at it. That is for 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah, all of those drivers lined up right there. You can throw the 55 as well as the 33 in that mix if you want, because they're all within about a half a second of each other as we watch Dustin Ping go to the inside of that 84 of Medford. And Travis Pryor, there you see him, the late model king, if you will. He's very known for his ability in the late models and super late models, jumping into a little bit longer style races this year. Hasn't had the best finishes, but is always fast and always fun to watch. So that 02 right there lurking, trying to take a spot away.
Yeah, he is, Dave, and a big transition maybe from a late model to these ARCA cars. But we have seen Travis be very successful. He did that last week. Even with all the trouble he went through last week, still rallied to have a pretty good race. But right now, man, the battle is between Troy Radford and Chris Medford. They are going at it right now for that 4th spot. Medford wants it. Radford has it.
Yeah, and for some reason on our screen here, we've got Troy Radford showing up in the 93 instead of his familiar 49. I'm sure that's just some kind of trading paints style kind of glitch going on right now. But Dustin Ping looking to the inside of Chris Medford now. The 02 of Travis Pryor. He's going to look to try to fill the hole once it's created. And big moment there for Ping off of 2. He's going to lose some ground and the spot to Travis Pryor. Going into turn 3 now out of 4. Pryor clears and sets his sights on the back of that 84.
Dave, I'm watching Travis Pryor go around this racetrack, and he's got a very unique line. If you watch, I was talking about everybody wanting to hug that yellow line. Watch Travis Pryor as he dives off into 3 here. He stays high, about 2 car lengths up, comes to the middle of the turn, about a braking point, and then he turns it down. If Dustin Ping's not there, he comes down, touches that yellow line. So Travis Pryor, he's working about 2 grooves up from where everybody's at right now. That may be a factor, because that's got to be a little easier on the tires, Dave, I would think.
Yeah, it's got to be well, you would think it would be running a higher line. It would be a little bit easier on the tires, but with this old abrasive surface, I'm not sure it's that much better. I'm sure over the course of a 30-40 lap run, I'm sure it would be a lot better, but I think you would lose a lot more time than what you would gain on the tire management. But over the course of a 150 lap race, you may find yourself working your way out of a whole pit stop. You may be able to stretch your stints long enough by conserving the tires like that. So there's a strategy all in itself, and it could play out, it could work out.
Yeah, it very well could. Man, there was a scary moment there a few minutes ago going into turn 3. Eric Blunt got all into the left rear fender of Jimmy Hetrick. Almost got him turned around as Eric Blunt, of course, behind the 8 ball right now, racing a few laps down. But there was a dangerous moment coming off a turn, or going into turn 3 there a moment ago. But Dave, we know Katie Osmond got out to that big lead as we watch here from the booth. Brian Mescal Jr. has started to reel in our leader.
Yeah, he's closed that gap down to right about a half a second, I do believe it is. And we spoke about momentum in the pre-race. We spoke about it a little bit in qualifying there. How about the momentum for this 33 of Brian Mescal Jr. at the beginning? The first 3-4 races of the season for this crew were just absolutely horrendous. And slowly but surely, they have turned it around, flipped the chapter, if you will. And last week, walking away with a race win, but now he finds himself under fire by that 55 of Steve Baker, and that's going to bring a whole slew of drivers with him. Troy Rafford, Chris Mefford, Travis Pryor, Dustin Ping, all right there. So the momentum's there for that 33. He's just got to get up there and continue to make the most of it.
Yeah, and anytime you see Troy Radford sneaking up in the mirror, you watch that mirror a little bit more as he gets around Steve Baker pretty easily. And bringing up our points leader last week, our former points leader, Chris Mefford, last week had some trouble, got behind the 8 ball, lost that points lead to Katie Osmond, but he's starting to rally back. And Dave, we're putting up some green flag laps, 21 of them in the books right now.
Yeah, and this is almost a second common theme here, Cody. We've seen those early lap 1, turn 1 issues, and then we've seen it go long green flag runs, usually right after that. So this is something these drivers, I guess, just those jitters, or even like today, I don't think it was necessarily jitters or anybody over driving, anything like that. I just think it was a unfortunately timed bump that went completely the wrong way.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen that in the past. We haven't seen real aggressive driving on those restarts, but we've seen drivers that's just kind of one slip, and that's a lot to do with something we've talked about the last few weeks. Was one slip, and it's just chaos from there. Just one little slip, and then chaos unfolds. But I think it's a lot to do with the handling of these cars, and I feel like these drivers are getting much better at maneuvering these race cars.
Yeah, and you spoke about chaos. It looks like that 76 of Chuck Mobley has had chaos bite him yet again, involved in a slight little mishap off track in the pits right now, trying to work on his machine. Do want to give a few little quick shout-outs here to tonight's race sponsor, Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. Not able to make tonight's race, but he did sponsor tonight's Southern Conservation Trust 100 with is it Centerline Brewing? I believe it is Centerline Brewing. What is it? The Peach Pecan Ale, or
Amber Ale.
Amber Ale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I was close. Like
you got it. That was pretty good with no notes.
Like I don't read too good.
That's why there's 2 of us up here, man.
This is true. But nonetheless, want to give a big shout out to Thomas out there on the YouTube chat side of things. Thomas, I did look for your pre-race, buddy. I was like, where's he at? And, well, not able to be here tonight, so that explains a lot. But we do appreciate you sponsoring tonight's race, and look forward to seeing you back on track next week. Yeah. Glad you could join us, but rather see you out there on the track, my man.
Most definitely, and Travis Arthur looks like he's going to be the first car to actually go a lap down under green flag conditions and he gets around, I would say Katie Osmond gets around him, and then there's a hornet's nest after that. Brian Mescal Jr. squeaks by, and here comes the cavalry. Dave, I've just been super excited to see, say, for instance, the top 6 drivers, 8 to 6, somewhere in there, they're all running together in the second place position. I mean, one mistake, and you go from 2nd to 8th in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, and you're exactly right. It is from 2nd all the way back to 7th, right there, packed up, so to speak, with each other. Then you got a little bit of a gap back to Dustin Ping, then another small gap back to Doug Wasaki. But then Brandon Medford, Brian Littleton, Roy Hyde, Thomas Light, they're all over each other. Back there a little further through the field. We'll go back around that 10th spot. There you see right now Travis Arthur scraping that outside wall, falling further through the field, falling a little further behind the 8 ball. And this is all the way back for 10th place, about 7 seconds back. So that just lets you to know the pace that these drivers up here at the front, your race leader Katie Osmond, that he's laying down. Last lap, Cody, was a 24-24, and that is only 0.3 off of his fastest lap of the race. So it doesn't look like running that inside line is affecting the car too much when you've got the clean air.
No, most definitely not. And he has he's opened that lead back up tremendously from where it was at earlier. And I'm telling you what, I've got my eye on this group that's coming across the line right now. Damon Cox, he is out in front of Michael Mason-Gill, Brian Snare, and Kendall Leveron, and they just sorted through. Travis Arthur is what they did. But I want to go back to Damon Cox. I talked to him before the race. He's dealing with somewhat of a pinched nerve in his back. And, Dave, to be racing at a place like this with a pinched nerve, you are, let's just say it's probably not comfortable for the driver in that 57 Miller machine.
Yeah, and as we were watching there, we seen some contact, and Travis Arthur hard into that outside wall on the backstretch. He's going to bring his 86 machine to pit road. He's going to have to fix some damage on that. Looked like there was some contact back there with, not quite sure who it was, but it was somebody back there running with Brian Snare, Lance Yancey, Ray Radford, Eric Blount, all right there grouped together. There was a little bit of contact, and unfortunately, that 86 has found some more trouble here tonight.
Yeah, and Dave, I want to point out, we're now 34 laps into this green flag run. Of course, every driver's probably sitting here saying tires, tires, tires. But I feel like we're creeping in on what could be maybe our first round of green flag pit stops. And Dave, you pointed out something in our pre-race show. The pit road here could make a big issue. Pit road under green could be huge the way this track's laid out, because you got to get on the apron and you got to get into pit road rather quickly, because there's a wall literally about 7 feet from that commitment cone.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest trouble is, as we see the 33 Brian Mescal Jr., he gets into that outside wall and stays stuck into it all the way down the backstretch. That's going to put Troy Radford into second and Steve Baker into third. Brian Mescal Jr. able to collect the car and keep it going. Going to keep the 4th place spot. But as I was saying, Cody, like in turn 3 and 4, you want it down there near the bottom. You want to be able to power off the corner. And with you having to come to pit road, when you're powering off the corner, the car's, it doesn't want to stay down there, if that makes sense. It wants to go to that outside wall, and I think drivers are going to get a little bit caught out, maybe throttling up a little too much heading into pit road entry.
Yeah, Dave, here's another scenario. You can't really just lay on the brakes if you're running in that bottom groove, because that is the preferred line. Now, some of these drivers have the ability to communicate with each other, but most of them don't. So if you're coming into the pit road, you can't just lock up the brakes and turn left, because you've got cars more than likely behind you. And if you do that, that could cause a big mess following you.
And trying to make his way into the top 5 right now. I've been watching, keeping my eye on this 0-2 of Travis Pryor. He's slowly but surely making up the ground and making up some time. That last time by was right there on the inside of the 84, battling for that last spot in the top 5. now right there all over his rear deck lid as we've had a few drivers hit pit road. It looks like Ray Radford into pit road this time by. Not sure if that was a scheduled stop or maybe an incident, as it looks like we've got another driver into that outside wall. I believe that may have been Chris Medford getting into that outside wall just a second ago.
Yeah, it looks like he just kind of clipped that outside wall as they work into turn 1 and 2. Travis Pryor has been all over that 84's bumper for the last few laps, trying to get a good run. And Dave, I'm still impressed with the unique line that Travis Pryor has been running. Now he creeps down a little lower, but look at the momentum that 02 car carries through the center of the turn.
Yeah, and I think if you're watching this 84 of Medford, he's almost running the older line that Pryor was running, that middle lane, so to speak. And it looks like maybe saving those tires has allowed that to turn it down in there and keep it on the bottom later in the run, where these guys are struggling just to run a lane off of the bottom.
Yeah, and that could play a factor, as now roughly they've got 42 laps on these tires, so they are closing in on almost, I would say, here in about the next 10, maybe 10, 12 laps at least. They're getting ready to close in on some green flag pit stops. You got to think about the five sets of tires they got. With this being, I would say, rather a short race. I mean, only 150 laps here at Rockingham. They're clicking them off rather quickly. We're coming to, 45 this time by.
Yeah, and we've got more drivers hitting pit road. Looks like Melvin Young bringing his number 10 machine down pit road this time by, as Pryor still trying to work over that 84 machine for that top 5 spot. Not able to do it. Gonna lose a little bit of ground. I'm sure we'll see that fight once again, as it looks like Steve Baker back up here at the front trying to work over Troy Radford. Radford has lost touch with your race leader. Katie Osmond now has a 1.7 second race lead over Troy Radford, who has Baker all over him. Brian Mescal Jr. going to be running in the 4th position now after contact with that outside wall. Then we go back to this battle for the last spot inside the top 5, and it is a very heated battle, one of our closest battles on track, Cody. Pryor not going away.
No, he's not, Dave, but he's going to have to take the time to be patient. I mean, this is 47 laps we're coming to this time by. Still plenty of time. We haven't seen the cars on pit road. I feel like Pryor had this last time. Last week, he had a really good car, but I felt like he pushed it too early and he got himself in some trouble. Just be patient, let the thing come to him. But right now, he's going to go to the outside and just try to make something happen. But you got to know that Medford feels him there. And as I say that, Travis Pryor goes to the bottom going into turn 3.
And he did it by setting the pass up and turning it to the bottom through the center of 1 and 2. Does the same through 3 and 4. Makes the pass and clear by 2 by the time he hits the start-finish line. Pryor now breaking into that top 5. And we've got a little bit of a scrum back behind these two drivers, Cody. Looks like Brian Littleton, Brandon Medford, they were battling with Dustin Ping, Thomas Light, Doug Lasaki just a few laps ago. So a lot of great close battles all over this a little bit under 1 mile track here at Rockingham Speedway.
Yeah, Dave, and got to give a shout-out to Thomas Light. He was involved somewhat in that opening lap mayhem that they had down there in 1 and 2. He's rallied pretty nicely. He's back up to 10th. We got to give him a shout-out. He's running those Turn 3 logos on that rear spoiler. So a shout-out to the Light Electric Company 98 of Thomas Light.
And Thomas, always a very methodical, thought-out racer. Doesn't make too many drastic moves, so to speak. Just methodically and slowly makes his way up through the field. The car's looking clean. He's looking good. Was a little bit caught up in that lap 1 incident, but since then has been free and clear of any problems. And now he's looking to take another spot away as he works his way to the inside of the 83, as Chris Medford and the 84 are going to bring his machine to pit road first. So he's going to be the first driver inside the top 6 to hit pit road. So we'll have to keep an eye on the race leaders, see how much time they're willing to give up on these older tires.
Yeah, and Katie Osmond's in, Troy Radford, here they all come, Dave. The floodgates are open. Once Medford hit pit road, I just think the odds-on favorite for tires, everybody had to follow because you're going to give up so much time. And just like that, looks like most of our top 10, Dave, is on pit road now.
Yeah, and I believe that is pretty much everybody in the top 10. As Dustin Ping stays out on track, he'll assume the race lead, as he's got Doug Wasaki just behind him in his 34 machine. Brian Kaufman, Roy Hyde, Lance Yancey, Kendall Levron, and Damon Cox all staying out on track. So from 8th all the way to 17th, all onto pit road that time by.
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if the cameras had a chance to see Katie Osmond on pit road or not, but I'm telling you, his pit crew, it kind of looks like a Jimmy Buffett concert. Next time they go to pit road, I'm going to mention that to you and see if we can't get our Turn 3 Racing Network camera guys to catch Katie Osmond on pit road. It looks like a Jimmy Buffett concert at Margaritaville down there in that Sundrop 88 pit.
I'm curious yet scared all at the same time.
Just think about a cheeseburger in paradise, Dave.
I'm still frightened. Still frightened. As it looks like Damon Cox going to bring his Miller machine to pit road this time by. Your top 5 still staying out on track. Dustin Ping, Doug Wasaki, Brian Kaufman, Roy Hyde, Lance Yancey still out there on track. Eric Blount being the first car listed as the lucky dog right now, being the first car listed 1 lap down. There you go. I'll get it right and spit it out eventually. But Katie Osmond right there now making that pass. So Osmond puts himself back into a very good spot, being the lucky dog. And it doesn't look like that 1 lap is going to gain Chris Medford very much at all.
No, it's not. And the second place running car right now, Falcon Motorsports 34 of Doug Wasaki, he goes way up the racetrack. He totally missed pit road just a few moments ago coming off of 4. He had to use the emergency plan, I guess you could say, the apron. That 34 Samantha's Ride machine totally missed pit road. He's down, going to try it again, this time off of 4.
Now more drivers going to hit pit road. Cody, looks like Doug Wasaki hitting pit road. Lance Yancey, Roy Hyde, they're all on to pit road. So Kaufman and Ping out there stretching this thing on out. Going to be close to 60 laps on fuel for these drivers. So pushing the car as far as they can. Going to try to make this, I believe, just a 2-stopper instead of a 3-stop race.
Yeah, and it looks like right now as Ping pulls to the bottom, he's going to let Katie Osmond unlap himself. I think you've got to see Ping on pit road this time, and there he comes. Once Katie got to that bumper, I felt like you had to see Dustin Ping come to pit road. You're just losing too much time.
Yeah, and I mean, going to lose a ton of track time when this all unfolds, because Osmond's going to easily come back around and pass Ping for position. Just off of the pit deltas, right at about a 46-second pit lane time. Your race lap time is about 30 seconds. So you're going to lose some time while you're sitting there on pit road. And just like that, looks like Katie Osmond going to take that second spot back. But Brian Kaufman, he continues to run out there right now, Cody. Kaufman looks like he's trying to stretch this thing as far as he can. And look at this. Oh, my goodness. Ray Radford with an issue, it looks like. We'll see if we can't go back, see what happened here with Radford as he's on the old pit road. But, man, that is just what Kaufman wanted to see.
Yeah, Dave, it looked like Brandon Medford may have got into the back of the 47 there in turn 2.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it looked like, is just a little bit of slight contact here and just enough for the race officials to throw the caution flag. Radford almost with a moment there, almost caught those barrels on the backstretch. He didn't, but, I mean, it was pretty close, but the race officials deeming it on the racing line enough to put the caution out, and that has played beautifully into the hands of this 7 of Brian Kaufman. He stayed out, now going to come to pit road this time by. When it opens, he's going to be able to get fresh tires, and then, I don't know, does does Osmond, Radford, Baker, Pitt, looks like they're on pit road. So yes, looks like Brian Kaufman, his gamble to stay out has paid off significantly.
Yeah, Brian Maskill Jr. stays on the racetrack, so he looks like he is going to pull up and may retake the lead. But I will say that Kaufman had just a little, not much, but a little fresher tires because he actually pitted after that lap 1 incident. So he only had about 59 laps on his tires. Granted, that's not much, but maybe that's what gave him enough to stay out on the racetrack a little bit longer than Dustin Ping. But it looks like everybody behind him comes in. I want to say Brian Maskill Jr., Travis Pryor, and Brian Littleton will stay out.
Yeah, I mean, that little bit can go a long way sometimes. And with that being said, we're going to take a little bit of a break here at the track. We're going to step away, pay some bills. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We got big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're gonna lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage. Your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane. Press and hold your reset button and we'll come and get you.
Back trackside after paying some bills. Cars receiving the wave around. Brian Maskill Jr. and his 33 Mountain Dew throwback going to line up behind that beautiful machine. That Chevy Silverado looks so beautiful out in front of these cars, doesn't it, Cody? Just it looks like it should be there.
I think it should be permanent, Dave. I don't know if we can make anything happen out of that or not, but I'm telling you what, check out the lineup we got right now for the top 8 spots. You want to talk about some strong race cars. Now we're going to see what K.D. Osmond can do buried in traffic, because he's going to have a lot of race cars in front of him as we get ready to go back green.
Teammates make up your front row. Brian Maskill Jr., Travis Pryor going to bring the field back to green flag. Brian Littleton right there. Second car inside row as the pace truck makes its way back to pit lane. Brian Maskill Jr. brings them to the restart box and on the gas, and green flag flies once again here at Rockingham Speedway for the Southern Conservation Trust 100, presented by Centerline Brewing Company. and Travis Pryor used that outside lane into the lead. The 0-2 for the first time here today.
Man, oh man, Thomas Light had an interesting moment. He got up into the outside wall and almost caused a mess for Katie Osmond and Chris Mefford. They get it straightened back out as they come across the line. Mefford, Baker, Radford, Thomas Light, they're all there battling. That's for 5th all the way back to 9th.
Yeah, and good battles up here at the front as well. Brian Mescal Jr., Brian Littleton, Troy Radford, Brian Kaufman, all battling for positions as Radford goes to the inside and takes the spot away from the 7 of Kaufman. Kaufman gonna slide back to that 5th spot. But we're not seeing what we've seen Osmond do on that first restart, step away from the field. Travis Pryor not able to quite step away from Brian Littleton. But we'll just have to wait and see how that all unfolds. Going to go back here and check on that 88 Sundrop machine. Struggling a little bit back here in the dirty air in the traffic. Osmond stuck right around that 9th spot.
David, side by side, battle for the lead. Brian Mescal Jr., he goes to the bottom. He's got Travis Pryor up and into that second groove, and a caution flag flies. Caution flag flies here on lap 69. I believe it was Michael Mason-Gill. Might have been part of this. He got into the outside wall, and man, looked like he turned Damon Cox around.
Yeah, it looks like the front end of that 4 all bashed up. So we'll go back, take a look, see what happened here. Oh, on to the, yeah, that's tough to look at, tough to watch. It looks like a little bit of contact with the outside wall. Catches the right rear of the 57, turns the 57 almost head on to the outside wall, then catches the 47 just a little bit. And there we seen that ping pong action we spoke of out of that 4 machine. We'll watch it one more time here. Outside wall, car, another car, outside wall, almost back into the inside wall, back to the outside wall. My goodness, that was a crazy ride there for Massengill.
Yeah, it was, Dave, and it could have been a lot worse for a lot of other drivers. Melvin Young just squeaked by. Brian Snare just got by. So, yeah, just a lot of racers trying to get a lot of positions on these restarts, Dave. They're so important. And, you know, if you get, not to quote like Days of Thunder, but you got to stay in the groove. You get up and out of the groove, you're going to find yourself into trouble. And, Dave, we've seen it multiple times. Even a couple of the accidents didn't cause cautions, but you can get into that outside turn 2 wall in a hurry.
And I'm going to break away for something real quick, Cody. And, yeah, I can't read so well sometime, guys. But not Thomas. Do appreciate you putting that in the chat for me there. Line Creek Brewing Companies can serve Georgia Pecan Amber Ale. And, hey, I just said it correctly, so you got to send me some. Haha, gotcha. No, but do appreciate all the help, guys. Sometimes things get crossed up, mixed up in my head, and I just say some things that aren't right all the time. And, well, if you know me, you just know that's me.
We all forgive you. Looks like Roy Hyde's coming onto pit road, Dave. He's going to lead roughly about 4 or 5 more cars are going to come on pit road with him. And I do not blame Travis Pryor, Brian Mescal Jr., Brian Littleton, and Troy Radford for staying out. Right now, they are in maybe the best spot on the racetrack.
Yeah, and I think the old philosophy that a lot of drivers took to Talladega, you know, if you're in the front of the field, you're not going to be caught up in it. If it happens, I think a place like this, like Martinsville, like Bristol, you kind of do use that mentality a little bit more because the accordion effects are very real at these style tracks when the drivers are checking up, getting into the corners, getting the car to turn in the center. You see the accordion happen a lot more at tracks like this. So I think staying out, I'd have to agree that's your best option right now, because I think if you were to pit, you wouldn't have very many takers. You'd find yourself back there behind the 8 ball a little bit, like that 88 of Osmond.
Yeah, and you know, we may say all that to say this. One of the drivers that was on pit road that go around was Roy Hyde. And we've already seen Roy Hyde use a little bit of strategy and it pay off for him to go to victory lane earlier this year. So maybe this was just something planned. Maybe that 00 machine has something up his sleeve, but in order for that to happen, he's going to have to get back on the lead lap.
Yeah. I mean, before you can win, you gotta finish on the same lap. I mean, this is true, and I mean, I want to give a big shout out to a driver that was able to make a big comeback after a very early race incident, that lap 1, turn 1 incident. Able to not just find a way back onto the lead lap, but I mean, look at him, top 10 right now. Brian Snare, heck of a recovery.
Oh, yeah, and his pit crew has got him right back in position to possibly make something happen here in the closing laps. Of course, we know that they're going to work on those race cars each time they come to pit road. But interesting to see what exactly Brian Snare is able to do in that 45 machine. We know he's got a fast hot rod. He's proved that to us earlier in the evening. But let's see what he can do as the pace lights are out on that Chevrolet pace truck. Dave, we're getting ready to go back green, and we'll do so with lap 75 this time by.
Gonna go back green flag racing this time by, and our front row looks the same. They're just flip-flopped. Brian Mescal Jr. now gonna have that outside lane. Can he do what that 02 was able to do to him on that last restart? Can he keep the momentum and make the pass coming off of turn 2? We'll just have to wait and see how it all shakes out. And I'm going to get back to you in a minute, Thomas. I got a question about some things because I'm pretty much in Georgia every single weekend down there at Lake Hartwell. But anyways, field ready to go here once again. Pace truck gonna duck off this time by. We'll start lap 75 out of the 150 scheduled in tonight's official race distance. Pryor bringing him to the field, bring him to the line, and on the gas and away. And not a chance in nowhere that Brian Mescal Jr. was going to do that move off of 2. Very rough start for that 33. He drops all the way back to 4th as Brian Littleton, he's right there. He may have a shot at the lead.
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if Mescal Jr. missed a shift or what, but he just pulled a parachute when the green flag came out. Officially halfway home in this one here at Rockingham. It's Travis Pryor, Brian Littleton, Troy Radford, Brian Mescal Jr., and Steve Baker, your top 5. Pryor showing the way, Dave, but that Littleton machine looks like he's gaining just a little with each turn.
Yeah, he's gaining, and Osmond gaining back here in the field right now. Taking a look at him battling with Brian Kaufman, and I believe that is Chris Medford just behind him. And they've got Brian Snare, Brandon Medford in tow as well. So the 45 making some moves up through the field, trying to follow that Sundrop 88 back to the front. Osmond knocking on the door of the top 5 once again as he makes the pass on the 7 of Brian Kaufman, put Osmond into the 6th spot.
Yeah, Dave, and Osmond is running that line that we saw Travis Pryor run a little bit earlier. Now, as I say that, he comes back to the bottom. He's got now just about a half a car length. Now close that up to about, I would say, a half of a quarter panel. As here comes Brian Kaufman. Kaufman's going to hunt the bottom, and Katie Osmond shuts the door going into turn 3. Is right behind them is Chris Medford and Brian Snare.
And just in front of them, there you see Steve Baker all over the rear deck lid of that 33 of Brian Mescal Jr. 2 laps ago, Cody, you do want to mention this. Travis Pryor turning in the fastest time of the race, a 23:32, going to take the quick time of the night. Brian Littleton not very far off with a 23:34, so your top 2 picking them up, laying them down as we reach just a little bit past the halfway point.
Yeah, and Brian Littleton is reeling in our leader. He's now within a half a car length as they go into turn 3. Pryor to the bottom, Littleton to the bottom. Stalking in the distance is Troy Radford, but right now the top 2 putting on a show with the speed chart as they are clicking off laps here at Rockingham.
Clicking off some very fast laps, your top 3. And I think Radford, he may be just kind of biding some time here. Watching that 80 get up there to the rear deck lid of that 02 of Pryor, and just letting Littleton and Pryor kind of race each other out of tires, maybe race each other out of gas, and look for Radford to just kind of walk in and pick up the pieces, if you will, because Troy's been known to kind of play it play the long game. I don't want to say play it safe, but play the long game in a few races, and that has worked out to his advantage. And he has got his Southern Conservation Trust 49 machine, or 93 machine actually, sitting pretty there in the third spot. That 93 paint scheme being kind of a shout out to Thomas Quattlebaum Jr., who was tonight's race sponsor, but unfortunately not able to make the field here tonight. So a big tip of the cap from Radford to Quattlebaum Jr. So that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Dave, check out Chris Mefford, Katie Osmond, and Steve Baker. They just passed the line 3 wide. There is a dogfight going on right now for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Man, oh man, 3 wide that last time to the line, and now they're going to stack them up 2 by 2 going into turn 3. Katie Osmond has the preferred line. He gets under Baker, and here comes Chris Mefford down.
Mefford right there trying to follow suit with that 88 as the 88 looks to the inside of Baker. Baker in trouble of getting freight trained here because there's 3, almost 4 cars all lined up as Medford looks to the outside. He's going to fall in line behind Baker, and that's going to open up that inside lane for the other Medford, for Brandon Medford to take that inside lane. Now all the drivers looking back to the high line as they head back into turn number 1. But Baker kind of, I don't want to say a moving roadblock, but kind of holding some of the field up here as we work our way back into turn number 3.
Yeah, Dave, and I don't think it's going to be long before you see maybe him get a little bit moved, because Chris Mefford tried to be really nice about it the last time in turn 2, and that didn't work out so well. So now he's on the hunt, and now he's got pressure. So I don't think he's going to be as patient if he can get back to the bumper of that number 55 machine. But I just now looked up at the board, Dave, and we got a new driver in second. Troy Radford just got around Brian Littleton for that second spot.
Yeah, just moments ago, Radford took it to the inside on the front stretch and was able to make the pass on the 80 heading down into turn number 1, so put Radford into second. And now we'll see how much he was, how much he was playing possum, so to speak, and how much he still has on the tires and how much he's got in the tank. Can he get up there and battle for the race lead? Can he run down that 0-2 of Travis Pryor, who continues to put down very fast laps? But that last lap, Radford about 5 thousandths of a second faster. Gonna take a lot of laps, being a couple thousandths faster to catch him, but the opportunity is there as we close in on lap number 90.
Yeah, Dave, and it's crazy. We are 8th race of the year, and Troy Radford's yet to go to victory lane. So if there's anybody in the field right now that is hungry, it has got to be that Troy Radford machine. As I look up on the board, here comes Katie Osmond. It's a battle of the soda cans. Brian Mescal Jr., Katie Osmond, they battle for 4th and 5th going into turn 3.
The battle of the soda cans once again. We had this battle last week, if I'm not mistaken. And, well, you chose the Mountain Dew. We all chose Sun Drop, and Mountain Dew went to victory lane. But I don't think... I don't agree with the soda choice. Let me put it that. Never. You know what? Let's just press rewind for a second and re-record over this part, because it's all jacked up.
Hey, listen, as long as I had the car that went to victory lane, I didn't care what was on the can.
This is true. I care about the paycheck and the signature at the bottom, letting me cash it in the end.
That's very true. And I tell you what, speaking of paycheck, check out the front of the field. Travis Pryor is under assault. Here comes Troy Radford. He's hunting for the lead.
And maybe, just maybe, what I was saying may be happening. Maybe Radford just kind of playing it cool there for a little while, taking it easy on the tires, because he disposed of Littleton rather easily. Now looking to dispose of your race leader, Travis Pryor, just as easy. And there you see pass being made out of turn 4, put that 93/49 of Troy Radford to the top of the speed charts. He's going to take the race lead for the first time here tonight as we crossed into lap 94. So Radford's got his machine dialed up after some pit road shenanigans for his crew down there doing the Macarena and stuff like that. Had him behind for a minute, but Radford able to drive his way back up through the field. Osmond also, heck of a recovery now into that 4th spot as Brian Mescal Jr. going to drop that spot in another, now under fire from Chris Medford. And it looks like Brandon Medford right there to try to take advantage of that spot as well.
Man, all kinds of chaos. Once Brian Mescal looked like he got a little tight coming out of 2. He had to let off of it. The bottom was open, and man, oh man, did the floodgates open as KD, Steve, Medford went by. Brian Kaufman almost squeaked by, and Brandon Medford might have paid the price. It dropped him all the way back to 10th. Man, that battle for 8th, 9th, and 10th still heats up, Dave.
Yeah, and Brian Snare still right there inside the top 10 after early trouble here tonight. It's taken him quite a long time to get here, but he has arrived on the scene. Now looking to the inside of that 7 of Brian Kaufman, not able to get the bite off of the corner that he wanted. And that's going to slow up the 83 just a little bit as Dustin Ping looks to drive to the inside. So as drivers are battling with one car, they've got to defend from another. And very easy pass made that time by that 45 of Snare on Kaufman. Looks like Medford going to chop the nose of Kaufman off heading into turn 1. So big moves being made, close moves being made here at Rockingham.
Yeah, Dave, and a lot of drivers, I feel like, are starting to get comfortable with where their race car's at. We're over the halfway point. We'll be coming to lap 100 next time by when Troy Radford crosses the line. And if anybody is comfortable with their car right now, Dave, that machine of Troy Radford has simply set sail on Travis Pryor once he got into that clean air. And if you're Travis Pryor now, you know you're going to have another pit stop more than likely. You're thinking about what just transpired, what he's doing to make him so much faster, and making a game plan for this last 50 laps, which we will start approaching next time by.
Yeah, as we reach the lap 100 mark here today in the Southern Conservation Trust 100, presented to you by Line Creek Brewing Company. Conserve Georgia Pecan Amber Ale. Every dollar raised for every dollar raised for buying a 6-pack goes to the Southern Conservation Trust. So get out there, support a great cause. If you're from Georgia, you got to support a local Georgia brewery. So get out there and support Line Creek Brewing. Goes to help a great cause with the Southern Conservation Trust. So big shout out to tonight's race sponsor here in the Southern Conservation Trust 100 from Rockingham Speedway. And what more would you love to see as a race sponsor than looking out front and seeing your car out there leading the race, the Southern Conservation Trust on the front of that 49 machine tonight. So they have got to be enjoying themselves with a few of those pecan amber ales.
Yeah, most definitely, and we'll take a couple of those up here after the race. Just want to say that.
Yeah,
well, Travis
I mean, why
Pryor,
not?
Yeah, Travis Pryor just got swarmed by 3rd, 4th, 5th place. He's hanging on to 3rd right now, but Brian Littleton went around him, and here comes Katie Osmond and Steve Baker as I feel like maybe the tires start to creep away on that 02 machine of Travis Pryor. But I was looking at our pit board here. Our leader, Troy Radford, he's only on 42 laps on the tires he's on right now. That is 10 laps less than Littleton and what Pryor have. They're both on 52 laps. So roughly the tire fall off is starting to show. But man, you want to talk about a car that is on a Sunday drive. That is Troy Radford right now out front.
Yeah, Radford has a very good lead right now over Brian Littleton, but look a little further back through the field, and there you see Osmond. He has made his way into the top 5, was running 4th, almost challenging Travis Pryor for that 3rd spot. Had a little bit of a moment, and that was enough to let Steve Baker get back by. So look for Osmond to settle back in and set his sights on the back of that 55 of Baker. And just behind Osmond, I'm going to beat a dead horse, and PETA can get mad at me and yell at me for beating dead horses, but whatever. This 45 of Brian Snare, man, he has driven the wheels off of his RFC NEXTGEN ARCA Menards K&N Series car. Trouble lap 1, turn 1, all the way down a lap, and now knocking on the door of the top 5. So that 45 machine and his crew, they have done a whale of a job out there tonight.
Most definitely they have, David. I mean, he is on the back bumper of Katie Osmond, who led a huge amount of laps at the start of this race. And, yeah, he's got a little bit of traffic in front of him, Dave, but Brian Snare has simply ran this group down and is approaching what possibly could get him up to the 3rd spot. As
we see a change for that 3rd spot, Baker drove up to the 0-2 of Travis Pryor and able to make the pass. Now Osmond going to look to try to do the same thing, going to try to see if he can't get his car to the inside lane entering turn 1. Not able to do it just yet. Still 1 car back as Osmond in a little bit of a moment there for Snare way up the track in turn 1. But it looks like it may have been a calculated move, as we've got 2 drivers to pit road. Brandon Medford, Brian Mescal Jr. both head to pit road this time by, and the leaders all coming to pit road. Look at this long train of cars. I believe your top 10 all hit pit road.
Yeah, same scenario we saw a few moments ago, Dave, and I don't know what exactly has happened to the 33 of Brian Mescal Jr., but he was on pit road just a lap earlier. Man, that 33 machine went back almost 10 spots on that run, so not sure if something might be shook up in the right front of that car, because he did get up and into the outside retaining wall. But man, that 33 machine, last week's winner, pulled a parachute in the middle of that run, so maybe they'll get some work done on that 33 machine, as Chris Medford has regained the lead coming to lap 112 this time by.
And wouldn't you know, our former points leader, the 84 of Chris Medford, only driver to hit victory lane multiple times this season. And when I say multiple, I mean just multiple, 2 times to victory lane. The only driver to do so far this season. And he's going to go out with a long run here. He's going to employ some strategy that we've seen Brian Kaufman use earlier. It looks like the 84 going to drag this green flag run out as long as he possibly can. And he's got about a 2-second cushion over the 7 of Brian Littleton, who's got Jimmy Hetrick right on his heels.
Yeah, Jimmy Hetrick, he showed a little bit of life the last few weeks, got caught up in some trouble, but right now he's running on the back bumper of that number 7 Brian Kaufman machine, who has led some laps, so pretty impressive run for Hetrick. He's only got 42 laps on his tires right now, so he's still roughly, Dave, I'm going to say about 10 laps, maybe 11 laps away from having to pit. So he very well could run this race out as far as this run right here, and very well possibly could lead his first ever laps here in the RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company ARCA Menards K&N Series if he stays on the racetrack.
And I mean, if it works out for you, that's always a beautiful thing. But I'm always wanting to be one of the first drivers on the pit road, just because it's really hard to judge and gauge how much time you're actually giving up and how much you're going to be able to regain by staying out. We seen Osmond almost pull that off. Stayed out a few races ago, stayed out a little bit longer and then made up the time. Not enough to get to victory lane, but made up a ton of ground with that strategy. So maybe some of these drivers that haven't visited victory lane, maybe they're just willing to roll the dice and just it is what it is.
Maybe so. As Jimmy Hetrick gets around Medford, it looks like Kaufman's going to dive. He's coming to pit road. So right now, looking at the board, you've got your top 3 are the only drivers not to go to pit road right now. That being Chris Medford, Jimmy Hetrick, and Dustin Ping. They are what you call the lone survivors right now, turning laps here at Rockingham. There's 118 laps on the board as they come off of turn 4 this time.
And I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at Troy Radford running in the 5th position right now, being scored the first car 1 lap down, and not very far in front of him is Medford and Hetrick, and that's what I'm talking about. As it looks like a little bit of trouble there for Medford, maybe. Or wait, no, looks like my screen's just having a little bit of hiccups and issues. I'll threaten it with a hammer here in a minute. But Radford very close to passing these drivers that have stayed out on track to get his lap back the good old-fashioned way. So just how much time is too much time before we see this 84 and the 48 hit pit road?
I don't know, Dave, but it looks like Radford's having some trouble. I've got him skipping, and the caution flag flies. Caution flag flies. Michael Mason-Gill. Trouble for him again. I do believe Travis Pryor, yeah, man, Travis Pryor got into the back bumper of Mason-Gill off of turn 2 and sent him into the outside wall, so the caution flag will fly.
And it looked like a little bit of contact and then coming across the nose of the 0-2, and the 4 just went right to that outside wall. Sure, it wasn't intentional, but just that slight little movement on these bumpers, because they don't quite line up. If we watch it here, you can see the front end almost goes underneath that rear bumper. There you see it, and those rear tires can get lifted up fairly easy. That may have happened, not quite sure, but nonetheless, that 4 involved and not too happy about the outcome.
No, and Dave, you pointed out something that we're going to see here in the next couple of weeks. We go to Talladega, the last Sunday night of the month, and that's a track that where drafting is key. And Dave, these front noses and rear bumpers just don't match up on these race cars.
Yeah, I would hate to see how the rear noses line up.
Rewind it for me again. All right.
Well, you said the front noses. I'd love to see one of these cars with a rear nose. It'd be pretty interesting.
Look at both ends. Come on now.
Well, I mean, it would be pretty interesting. I mean, at least the bumpers would line up like that.
Very true. Needless to say, this caution coming out could pay dividends for Chris Mefford, Brian Littleton, Jimmy Hetrick, and Dustin Ping right now.
And it does help Troy Radford as well. Radford was on the pit road maybe 3 or 4 laps prior to the caution. So himself, Baker, Osmond, Pryor, looks like most of the drivers all going to receive waiver rounds. And it looks like we do have a few drivers hitting pit road. I believe they're going to end up going a lap down as Brian Littleton comes to pit road this time. Roy Hyde, Eric Blount also on pit road. But indeed, Chris Medford has been the one to gain the most out of this one. Once again, that long strategy pays off for a driver, and Medford finds himself leading the race.
Yeah, he does, and he had just about, I would say about 10 laps different tires that run. I think that might have been paying the difference. But have you noticed something, Dave? When we get around to these green flag pit stops, there's a caution lurking once we get around our green flag pit stops. So may play into strategy going towards the end to see if any of these drivers just patiently wait.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe they're going to have more than enough fuel here to make it to the end, as they've only got somewhere right about the 30-lap range remaining. With all that said, we're going to hit a quick bill real quick and step away from the track. We'll be right back with all your green flag racing action all the way to the end of tonight's Southern Conservation Trust 100, presented to you by Line Creek Brewing.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Thanks for rejoining us here trackside at Rockingham Speedway. Cody, it has been one heck of a race here at the Rock tonight. Pace truck lights are out. Front of the field looks like this. Chris Medford will have control over the race just to his outside. Jimmy Hetrick, Dustin Ping will line up third. Troy Radford in fourth. And I've got Roy Hyde in fourth. Not sure where I'm not sure.
I think the wave around cars has got it all mixed up. And man, oh man, shot out of a cannon. Chris Medford on the go. Dustin Pink second. Jimmy Hetrick going to be in third. Dave, what a restart for Medford.
Yeah, a big time restart there for Medford to get out and away from the field. Just making sure we're live. Looks like timing and scoring not really working out for us very well, as we've had a little bit of a mix-up here with some of the drivers that are being scored a lap down, starting in front of some of our lead lap cars. So Osmond, Mescal Jr., Radford, Baker, all mixed in with some drivers running one lap down right now. Eric Blount has that lucky dog position just in front of that 00 of Roy Hyde, running in the 14th and 15th position, where I apologize, the 15th and 16th position. But up at the front of the field, Dustin Ping, he's slowly closing in on the back of Medford.
Dave, some kind of trouble for Travis Pryor. Pryor was into the outside retaining wall off of turn 4. He's into the pit road with the hood up on that O2 machine. Not sure what happened, and the yellow flag is out. Caution flag flies off of turn number 2, it looked like.
And it looks like big cloud of smoke in the 10 of Melvin Young going to drive away from this one. So we'll go back, take a look, see what happens. And it looked like the 7 of Brian Kaufman may have been involved as well, as we joined the action a little late, and those two drivers already sliding towards the inside wall on the backstretch. Heavy contact for both of those drivers. And we find ourselves under caution once again here at Rockingham Speedway. Leaders have caught up to the pace truck. Doesn't look like any of them going to head down pit road. Just as I say that, Medford comes to get some tires. And we've got a few followers: Radford, Baker, Osmond, Mescal Jr., Snare, Medford, Light, Levron, and Wasaki all hit pit road. So Dustin Ping and Jimmy Hetrick going to stay out on track. They believe the track position is more important than the tires right now. And I don't know. It's a big time gamble here this time at a track like this.
It is, Dave, but I'm telling you, with everybody else behind him now on fresh tires, I think you're going to see that tires are very, very important when we go back green. Now, some drivers are going fuel only. Chris Medford looks like he just went with fuel only, but the timing and scoring, I was looking at that just a minute ago. I think we was shook up on that because all the drivers that took the wave around, it put them behind the drivers that were a lap down. So your Katie Osmond, your Troy Radford, your Brian Mescal Jr., Brian Snare, they were all looked like they were back in in 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, but they were simply at the tail end of the lead lap. I think that's what got all that shook up. I think you're going to see that flex out now because we're going to have, it looks like 14 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. Roughly looks like Roy Hyde would be the lucky dog.
Yeah, and with Hyde coming to pit road and Damon Cox also joining him on pit road, Eric Blunt coming to pit road as the lucky dog. Lance Yancey actually puts his 77 machine in that lucky dog position. So look for him to try to fight off a few of the drivers and keep himself in that spot should we find ourselves having another late race caution as we work with just 20 laps to go here halfway down the backstretch. Your new leader of the race, the one of Dustin Ping. He'll have the 48 of Jimmy Hetrick right behind him. Third place will be Brian Littleton. Chris Medford right there in fourth. Troy Radford gonna line up for this restart in fifth. And Cody, this is a somewhat of a short track Saturday night feel right here. Old school track, beating and banging has been known to happen here at the Rock. Feelings get hurt here at the Rock. We've got a short amount of laps and a lot of testosterone to determine who's going to walk away with the race win.
Most definitely, Dave. And 19 laps looks like roughly could be 18 or 17 when we go back racing. If we stay green, Dave, these laps are going to click off very quickly here at Rockingham. They've been putting on a pretty good pace this evening, and it won't take long for these laps to go away. And if you're back there where Katie Osmond's at in 7th, you're Brian Maskill Jr. in 8th, even go back to Brian Snare in 9th. You don't have much time to get there. So I think this might be one of those restarts where you see a little bit of aggression go at it. But I'm telling you what, if you're on the outside row, Jimmy Hetrick didn't get a great start on that last restart. So if you're on that outside row, you're going to have to be aware and alert that Dustin Ping don't take off and leave.
Yeah, and the unique thing here in the RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company, Arkham Menards K&N Series is once the pace truck ducks off of the racing surface, the leader has full control. No longer has to wait all the way to the restart box. And sometimes that just catches the driver in the second position out to lunch a little bit. You have got to be fully aware the entire time coming. I usually want to say through the center of 3 and 4. You always want to be right there with the driver that's restarting the race, just so you can try to match the throttle drop when he decides to go. But your reaction time is never going to be fast enough, but you may find yourself with just that slight chance. We've seen Travis Pryor with a great restart on the outside. So if you can get there quick enough to the gas, you may be able to set yourself up for a great pass coming out of turn number 2.
Yeah, Dave, and unfortunately, it looks like Travis Pryor's night is going to come to an end. Whatever happened to that O2 machine looks like it may be done for the night. We'll have to wait and see. As I was checking on timing and scoring, and I'm not seeing that O2 machine on the pit road either.
Yeah, it looks like that last has ended the night for Pryor, and just like that, Ping jumps on the gas, not wasting any time, and he gets off to a good start, and contact, and Hetrick goes around. Oh my goodness, contact. Jimmy Hetrick went around, he saved it, but the yellow flag still coming out. We'll see if that's what they called it for. Yes, it was, because Hetrick was basically a moving T right there with the 80 of Brian Littleton.
Wow, Dave, I looked out of the corner of my eye. He was the opposite way you should be on the racetrack, and he found a way to keep that 48 straight and right in front of the entire field. So that could have been really bad.
It could have been catastrophic for multiple drivers. And it looks like when the caution flew, it looks like they are going to give the spot to Brian Littleton. So Littleton going to line up second. Hetrick going to re-line up third. And I wonder if any of these drivers going to come down pit road. Lance Yancey, he's the lucky recipient. Lucky dog. He elected to stay out last time. Take that lucky dog spot. got a quick caution, so that plays into his hand and plays into his favor. So as the rest of the field catches up to the pace car, we'll wait for the lucky dog to come around, and we'll step away for just a brief moment. A small commercial break. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back. Back track side as the field's double file once again getting ready to set things off. Can we see a green flag run to the end? Will we see some more late race chaos? We'll just have to wait to find out. Dustin Ping will have the field in his hands once the pace car makes its way off the track. Brian Littleton to his outside and on the gas early. Green flag flies. Dustin Ping back on the gas very early. The 80 of Littleton not able to clear Hetrick just yet. Now's able to as Hetrick checks up just a little bit in front of that 49 of Troy Radford, sporting the 93 on the side of his machine here tonight for tonight's race, sponsored the Southern Conservation Trust 100 for Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. not being able to make tonight's race, and Radford doing a fine job representing that cause, as Ping is doing everything he can to keep himself at the front of the field in front of Brian Littleton, but just barely. It's a 3-car breakaway at the front of the field with just 10 laps to go.
Yeah, coming off of turn 4. Oh, and it looks like the caution flag's back out. Caution flag again. Kendall Levron. Looks like trouble for him off of turn 2. And it looks like, Dave, another car just simply getting into that outside retaining wall. And man, oh man, Douglas Saki. Oh, wow.
And watching it contact off of 2 between the 8 and the 34, and that put the 8 up on the guardrail and stuck in the fence heading into turn number 3. My goodness. We'll take a look at it again. There's the contact with Levron. There's Wasaki and Levron into it. Hard contact up and over and in to the catch fence. Goes that 8 of Kendall Levron. Motor goes. That's going to put an end to his night. No fast repairs here in the RFC Next Gen Light Electric Company ARCA Menards K&N Series. So tough break for that 8 crew. Not the way you want to end your night. But man, that's a tough hit.
Dave, I think that's the first car all season we've seen leave the racetrack.
And not come back.
Yeah. Very much true, but I tell you what, Dave, these short runs are helping that number 1 of Dustin Ping. You have to go back to Steve Baker before you find fresh tires. He's in 4th, and Dustin Ping with these cautions looks like when we get things going back, could be at around 5 laps to go. This could play into his wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I mean, as the leader, you always have the advantage on the restarts, especially late race restarts where you've only got a handful of laps, 3 to 5 laps. You get a great restart. It's going to take a lap, 2 laps for the drivers to make their way back to you, and then only give them about a lap or 2 to complete the pass. If they want to complete it cleanly, I should say, you can pretty much get to somebody's bumper and just move them right out of the way if you want to, but not how a lot of these RFC Next Gen Light Electric Company ARCA Menards K&N Series drivers like to race. But there again, it's for the race win, buddy, and I don't know, I'd probably move my mama out the way.
Well, I'm not pointing fingers, but we've seen Brian Littleton, he kind of got Jimmy Hetrick a little loose saying, hey, we got to go. There's just a few laps ago. So if you look at the scenario, I really think with the restarts, Dustin Pink's going to have the advantage. Chris Mefford now, he's a little bit of a seasoned veteran. He's going to be a little better at the restart, I believe, than maybe Jimmy Hetrick was as far as staying close. But I look for Ping to change it up here. He's been kind of getting on the throttle as soon as the pace truck gets off the racetrack. Dave, we've seen this earlier this year. He kind of patiently fooled the drivers behind him. We'll see if he does that again. It looks like no takers this time on pit road.
Yeah, and I don't believe we'll see too many takers for the rest of the night. And as we say that, Roy Hyde, he's going to bring his machine down to pit road. Roy being scored 1 lap down, being shown as the first car 1 lap down. So nothing really to lose for Roy to come down pit road and maybe put on the last set of tires. Because we do have the possibility, the chances of going to a green-white checkered 1 green-white checkered here in the RFC Next Gen Light Electric Company ARCA Menards Series. So maybe Hyde looking to better his chances at moving up through the field should he get himself back on the lead lap. Not sure how much he's going to be able to gain because if we get another caution, he's still got at least 15 drivers to pass, and I don't think you're going to be able to make up that much in just a green-white checkered. But I don't know. Could we see Brian Snare? Could we see Katie Osmond make up enough of that time? What about Troy Radford? He's going to start right there in 5th. So a lot of these drivers at the front still waiting to go to victory lane for the first time. And still very, very hungry for their race win this season.
Well, Dave, I got my old pencil out. I got the notebook here. 25 laps for Pink, 24 for Littleton, and then it's 16 laps for Mefford, Baker, Radford, and 25 laps all the way back to Jimmy Hetrick in sixth. Tires are out the window now. It's you've got what you've got, and really, as far as a fall off, only about roughly a 10-lap difference between the top 5 in tires. I think you're going to see a very even race if these drivers stay green right here as they go into turns 3 and 4. Dustin Pink, Brian Littleton, Chris Mefford, Steve Baker, your top 4, as we've got now 4 laps to go is what it'll be when we take the green out of turn 4.
And it is truly run what you brung, a time of the night, with just 5 laps to go for. And when we cross the line this time by, field his double file pace truck ready to duck off. Ping will restart the race. When will he go? On the gas early again, and that caught Brian Littleton sleeping. That outside lane not going nowhere, and Brian Littleton spun through the grass. No caution, now caution coming out as Troy Radford involved as well. So Radford and Littleton involved in this one, and Radford's backwards on the track up against the outside wall. We'll take a look, see what happens here. And it looks like Troy may be having a little bit of connection issues, not picking him up until he's pretty much already around. So we'll take a look at this crash involving Brian Littleton. And there you see him, after being pushed by Baker on the front stretch, just goes around. Very slight contact with that inside retaining wall.
Yeah, Dave, I'm watching that again, and Steve Baker had the rear tires of Brian Littleton up off the ground. I don't know if Littleton missed a shift or what happened, but man, he had the rear end of that Michelob Ultra 80 machine clear off the ground. I've been going back listening to the RPMs and the replay, but something happened because Littleton just kind of stopped, and Baker had nowhere to go.
Yeah, and you miss a shift here, or anywhere really, you miss a shift on a restart, especially a restart that's very late, and I can assure you, you're going to be, I don't want to say moved, but you're going to get going in a way that you don't want to.
Yeah, I'm going back and I'm listening to it now. Our Turn 3 Racing Network guys have got us an extra camera angle here in the booth, and I'm listening to him come up through the gears, and it sounds like he missed a gear. It's just what it sounds like from first to second, and then the car just kind of goes silent.
Yeah, and it could have been that switch where not necessarily the switch, but from first into second, then trying to getting ready to go to third, the car just kind of pops out of gear sometimes. I know a lot of the drivers have had some issues with some of the shifters in these Chevy Impalas, so maybe one of those issues coming and rearing its ugly head here tonight for the 80 of Littleton, who has had a great run, and unfortunately for him as well as Radford, their night's going to end in a way that they didn't think it was just a handful of laps ago.
Yeah, and you got to hate that. I mean, they've had a really good race, and, if something's going to happen to you, you want it to happen in, say, for instance, the first half of the race. You don't want it to happen in the second half of the race, and that's what's happened there. But here we go again. Dustin Ping, he's going to have a short go at it. As Dave, I believe this will be our one chance at a green-white checker for the RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company ARCA Menard Series. He's going to have what was last week's point leader, and very well could be the points leader coming out of Rockingham. Chris Mefford to his outside, rookie Jimmy Hetrick third to the inside, Steve Baker on the outside, and then you've got, look here, Brian Snare, who snuck into the top 5. What a recovery for that driver in the 45 machine.
Absolutely, and we know that 45 is fast. He put it on the outside pole here today for tonight's Southern Conservation Trust 100, presented to you by Line Creek Brewery. Conserve Georgia Pecan Amber Ale. I mean, the speed's there, but I'm just not sure you got enough time. I mean, you've got essentially 2 laps to try to try to get the job done, and he's got some pretty formidable opponents in front of him. I mean, they're not just going to roll over and let him have it, but you also don't want to be too aggressive and go ahead and end the race under a caution as well. So look for Snare to be pretty aggressive, but I'm just not quite sure that he's going to be able to get up there with just 2 laps from that 5th position. But I have been proved wrong multiple times. I won't lie about it. I've been proved wrong an absolute ton. And maybe Snare will prove me wrong out here tonight.
Well, Dave, the best thing he's got going for him is he is on the inside lane, which means he's going to be in the row that's following Dustin Ping. Ping gets on the gas. If Jimmy Hetrick stays close, you're going to have an advantage on that inside line, and it's just going to be a matter of what can you do with it coming into 1 and 2, and more importantly, what can you do coming off of turn 2? I think the race is going to be won or lost once we get off of turn 2. If Chris Mefford can stay close, he is going to have the momentum off of turn 2. But, Dave, as we've seen multiple times tonight, that wall coming off turn 2 comes at you really quick.
It comes at you extremely quick. And wouldn't you know, right here, driver lining up outside row number 1, the 84 of Chris Medford. We've talked about him, about being the former points leader, but he's been to victory lane the most this season. 2 times to victory lane already. Can he make it a 3rd time in just 8 races? We have a green-white checker to determine whether he can do that. Chevy Pace truck ready to duck off. We'll get set to go back. Green flag racing on the gas. Ping gets a great start. The 84 had a good start as well. Best start out of the last few restarts for that outside lane. And away Ping goes off of 2. He's got a 1-car race lead over Medford heading into 3.
Chris Medford, wow, gains a ton of momentum. He's within less than a car length now. Here he comes off of turn 4, and around goes Baker. Steve Baker goes around out of turn 4. No caution. They're nose to tail. Man, Medford all over the back bumper and Ping into the outside retaining wall. Dustin Ping slammed into that outside retaining wall off of the front bumper of Chris Medford. And Dave, I don't think there's going to be too many happy folks in that one pit.
Surely not. And then we had another big moment. Jimmy Hetrick, he went sideways down the back stretch as well. And that's going to put Medford with the race win. Brian Snare back into the top 3, finishing in the 2nd spot. Katie Osmond going to walk away in 2nd. But after Medford kind of pushed a little bit on that rear bumper of Ping, we got to wonder how happy that one is. Well, I know he's not happy at all. And just looking around the track, making sure everybody's okay, all the safety vehicles getting to the drivers ahead, those incidents coming to take the checkered flag. But my goodness, what a way to end the race here tonight. And your race leader, multiple-time race winner, walks away with yet another victory. That 84 of Chris Medford got the job done. And with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step away from the track for just a brief moment, set up our post-race interviews. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. back live trackside after another great finish here in the RFC Next Gen Light Electric Company Arca Menards K&N Series. And man, Cody, another fine one in the books. And I believe you've had a chance to catch up with a very popular driver and a driver walking away with the third spot here tonight.
Yeah, Dave, I have got Katie Osmond with me. Man, came into this race with the points lead. Looks like more likely you're going to lead with the points lead. A dominant first half car again, just not able to put this thing in victory lane. I feel like each week we see you be dominant. What's it going to take to get this 88 machine into victory lane?
I don't know, a little bit more luck probably is the biggest thing.
Well, man, I felt like you had things going. You had things really going your way. And then that one caution came out. I think it was on the first green flag round of pit stops. It kind of put you back in dirty air. I thought things was going to sort out for you. And then we had another caution come out late, which kind of kept, I would say, the first 5 cars on the lead lap and kind of buried you. You had to get that wave around. Kind of talk about the way this car just simply went into traffic. Looks like it kind of struggled a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was great when I was able to be out front alone, but, you know, those cautions just fell not in my favor. Yeah, once I got into traffic, the car just tightened up. I couldn't really do anything. And once you tried to pass anyone, you couldn't, you know, do it without being hard on your tires. So once you started passing people, that was pretty much it for your tires.
Of course, we saw 2 kind of distinct lines around this racetrack, the left side tires on the yellow line, and then some drivers were able to make the diamond kind of work, go into the turn high and kind of make their way down to the bottom. Could you tell any difference out on the racetrack as far as the wearing of tires by running any different grooves?
Yeah, I think you could diamond it once you got later on into the run, but hugging the yellow line was at least fastest for me early in the run. But yeah, I mean, I had a solid line there. I was switching it up, and I could be fast anywhere.
Well, KD, man, another top 3, another good finish, another good solid mark as far as the points go. And anybody you want to thank, tell us about the folks on that race car.
Yep, my sponsor, Ohio and Indiana Roofing Company, my teammates. We had good finish tonight, almost one, but then 2 and 3. Thank you to my family for watching. Thank you guys for broadcasting, and thank you guys in the league for making all this possible.
KD, thanks, man. Third place finisher tonight in the 88 Sun Drop Machine, KD Osmond. Looks like, Dave, he'll hang on to that points lead as we leave Rockingham and go to Dover. And man, oh man, you've got a guy that has to have a smile on his face in tonight's runner-up.
Yeah, finally able to catch up with the driver walking away in second here tonight. Brian Snare and the 45 crew. Heck of a job out there for you, man. Heck of a race. Had to overcome quite a bit.
Yes, sir. Drove from all the way in the back. First and foremost, I got to thank our sponsor, Ohio and Indiana Roofing. It's awesome what they do and allow us to do what we do each week.
Well, my man, tell us a little bit about how... well, from my standpoint, I'm going to say it. How frustrating is it to put the car up there, outside pole, have another great starting spot, and then lap 1, turn 1, you go back to the back of the field once again after an early incident, drive your way back up. What's the mentality? I mean, how does that go for you?
Well, to be honest, I'm getting kind of used to it, unfortunately. But I don't let it bother me much. You know, I clearly had a fast car, and I think part of that problem was actually my fault. I haven't looked at a replay yet. Look forward to looking at one. But I'm a little too timid on those restarts because I don't want to mess somebody else up, and then it usually ends up hurting me in the long run. But basically, I just settled in and knew I had a fast car, and that's thanks a lot. All in part to my teammates, actually. Black Hawk Motorsports teammates, Mike, Chris, Dustin, and Dale. They have helped me tremendously. I'm fairly new to iRacing, and they've been awesome.
Well, man, it has been awesome watching the runs that you've been having of late. It was a pleasure to watch you run through the field here from the back. I know that's not ideal. I know that's not how you want the race to go, but you showed not just some grit, but perseverance as well as a ton of talent. and a level head, because a lot of drivers after that very early setback can be a little bit over aggressive trying to get back to the front. You took the calm approach and slowly, methodically made your way back into the top 15, then the top 10, top 5, now walking away with a second place finish. So Brian, once again, congratulations to you and everybody on that 45 crew. Before we let you go, would you like to give a shout out, thank you, love you, thank anybody else on the side of that car?
Yes, sir. Victory Junction Camp, my other sponsor, and my son Mitchell, who you guys know races other series. And yeah, it was just, you can't make many daring moves. And I want to give one shout out to Chris Bedford. I kind of blocked him going into turn 1 there on the last lap, and he didn't get into me, so I appreciate that.
All right, well, there you have it. Some few final words from the driver walking away in the second position out here tonight in the Southern Conservation Trust 100, presented to you by Line Creek Brewing. Conserve Georgia Pecan Ale, Amber Ale, that is, because, Brenda Ale just doesn't sound as good. Nonetheless, I believe, Cody, I believe you've been able to catch up with our race winner, that 84 of Chris Medford.
Yeah, Dave, any ale sounds good in Victory Lane, and that's where we are right now. For the third time this season, our only multi-winner, Chris Medford. Chris, this car tonight, I felt like he had a really good car throughout the run. Never really got that clean air you needed. Tell us about this race car throughout the night.
I didn't have a top 5 car. Pit strategy is the one that really got me up there, and with all them guys getting the wave around, it gave me a chance to come back and take my last set of tires, which only had 1% wear on them. So it kind of kept me on the front of them. And then, like I said, it just really about track position is so hard to pass with new tires that, I was able to hold them off.
Well, I couldn't be an interviewer and not kind of want to hear your side of the story. Going into 1 and 2, Ping's leading. You all make contact. He gets into the outside wall. Kind of talk us through what happened as you all dove down into turn 1 on that white flag lap.
Well, the previous restart, I actually stuck my nose in on the inside and I backed out, let him have it. They started, chopped it. And that I got behind him and he blocked me all the way down the front straightaway on the bottom of the track. So, we both entering down low. And he must have checked up while I was, still driving it regularly. And I just moved him out of the way. And I got back to watching the replay. And he had it almost straightened out. And then it's for some weird reason, I'm like a car length away from him. And his car just snaps right. And it puts him right in the wall. So I had no intention at all of wrecking him. I was just, going to move him. Because if I wanted to wreck him, obviously I could have driven harder. But I didn't want to wreck him. I just wanted to move him out of the way and, go from there.
Well, man, 3 wins on the season so far. We're 8 races in. You've been to Victory Lane 3 times. You got to be happy with how things have started here in this season.
Yeah, that hasn't been too bad. Last week, I really bit the bullet. I accidentally got into somebody when they was pitting, and it really put me behind the 8 ball because it actually put me in front of the leader, but it gave me the EOL, pushed me a lap down, and it was a long wing frag run those 2, and it just kept me a lap down, and there's nothing I could do to rebound it. So it gave KD the points lead overall. I'm pretty sure he probably got the points lead after finishing 2nd or 3rd today. But I mean, today was a really good race. I mean, we went, I think it was like 50 laps almost twice, and it's hard to do, especially this size of the field.
Well, man, congratulations. Tell us about the folks on the side of that race car helping this 84 machine get around the racetrack.
Yeah, first I want to thank my teammates Troy, Tom, Tyler, Brandon, and Doug. They're great teammates from Falcon Motorsports. Race for Riley Foundation. Like I said before, my nieces went to hospital there recently, so they're pretty big in my family. I picked up a new sponsor last week, a Bruzy racewear. You can get some racing shoes, racing gloves, racing the tire. Just go to bruzy.com/US and get on there and order some stuff, and it's really good quality. Thank you guys for broadcasting. I want to say my apology to Dustin. I had no intention of wrecking him. I just was gonna move him out of the way and not actually wreck him. It wasn't the actual Terry Labonte Dellenhart thing. So.
Well, Chris, man, congratulations. 3 wins in 8 races. A pretty good start to the season. Dave, this guy right here, he's the only multi-time winner, and now he's got 3 checkered flags to his name in the 2020 season.
Yeah, that he does. This one maybe a little controversial, but we've had controversial finishes before, not just here in the RFC Light Electric Company Orca Menard Series, but also in real NASCAR. I mean, to quote an old saying, I wasn't trying to wreck him. I was just trying to rattle his cage. You know what I mean? And that's the perspective that Medford has on the incident, the last lap incident. I'm sure Dustin Ping has a little bit different of an opinion on it, but that's just kind of way the cookie crumbles and kind of the way it is. But nonetheless, man, another great race for us, another great race for the fans. Do want to give a big shout out to everybody joining us here tonight on the Turn 3 Racing Network, whether you're a fan, friend, or family, or just a random stopper buyer. We do appreciate you coming in and showing these drivers some love. If you haven't already, go ahead and toss them a thumbs up, click subscribe, smash the bell, get notified anytime we go live here on the Turn 3 Racing Network. And with all that being said, Cody, looks like we're just about ready to run down through the final race results here today for the Southern Conservation Trust 100, presented to you by Line Creek Brewing, Conserve, Georgia. Pecan Amber Ale walking away with the race win. The 84 of Chris Medford, Brian Snare with a great run back to the front, all the way back to the second spot. Katie Osmond will end tonight's race in 3rd place. Brandon Medford in 4th. Eric Blount rounding out your top 5. Brian Muskill Jr. in 6th. Lance Yancey coming home in 7th. Damon Cox gonna walk away in 8th. Roy Hyde in 9th. Doug Wasaki will round out your top 10.
Brian Littleton will bring his 80 machine home in 11th. Jimmy Hendrick with his 48 car, he'll finish 12th. Troy Radford 13th. It'll be Steve Baker 14th. It will be Thomas Light in the 15th spot, and Dustin Ping will fall to the 16th spot, being the last car scored on the lead lap. Coming in 4 laps down, it'll be Ray Radford in his 47. 18th spot will be Melvin Young in his number 10. Kendall Levron will be in the number 8, the 19th spot, and rounding out the top 20 tonight from Rockingham in the number 7, it's Brian Kaufman.
Finishing in 21st position here today after leading a handful of laps, the 02 of Travis Pryor. Michael Mason-Gill gonna walk away in 22nd, and Derek Robinson coming home in 23rd. Travis Arthur in the 86 after a heavy contact early in the race, gonna walk away in 24th, and Chuck Mobley in his 76 crew gonna finish tonight's race in the 25th and final finishing spot. Well, once again, it's been another great night. Cody, do want to give you a shout out. Appreciate you joining me here in the booth, and each and every Sunday night that you do get the opportunity to come up here and call the race with me. Do appreciate all the hard work that you put in. Big shout out to all the fans, all the sponsors, Light Electric Company for sponsoring the series for the season. Big shout out to all the drivers. Big shout out to all you fans. And well, with all that being said, stay safe, stay loved. We'll see you next time here on the Turn 3 Racing Network.